Hey guys, Adrian here for the DojoCast. This is episode 28 of the DojoCast CES 2012. Hey guys, I'm your host Adrian, and I know it's been a while since we've gotten the podcast out. It's now 2012, so Happy New Year to all of you. I know I haven't uploaded anything via iTunes in a while. I'm trying to get back in the schedule of things and kind of reboot the podcast. This is really more what this episode's about. I want to get more editing in, more co-hosts and guest hosts in there. Do more of a roundtable type thing. We're doing live streaming now via livestream.com. We've done that in the past. We just I got that stream up and running again. So if you are, if people want to tune in before the actual, the post or the pre-recording, then they can see everything raw and all of that before we get all the editing in. But anyways, since the last podcast, I'm not sure. I think we mentioned I got the 27-inch iMac. That is it's the i5 model with the 2.7 dual core. I want to say 2 gigs of RAM. All of that jazz. So that's my new editing machine. That's what I'm going to be doing everything on. We still need to get some new people on the show and on the team to be editing. We need some new editors and all of that for the video podcast edition. We're still working on audio issues and all of that. As of right now, we're going in 720p. It's not 1080p, but it is HD 1280 by 720. We're looking to boost up to 1080p recordings for iTunes, but that comes with a lot of storage and bandwidth and all of that. So there's a lot to be worked on the podcast, but there is a lot of stuff I want to see change, and we're obviously going to be doing a lot of stuff in post-production with third-party banners, and we're looking for some new sponsors for the show, all of that jazz. But anyways, a lot of news has happened this week, and I actually wanted to come back into the show, kind of post CES, everything, the crazy consumer electronics show that happened 2012 in Las Vegas, and there's tons and tons of stuff. It's always a huge news highlight because there's so much coming out for the future of technology. A lot of people are showing off products that are going to be launched either late 2012 or mid 2012, or some of the products are even out now and they're just kind of showcasing it. So there's a lot talk about CES, but I'm going to kind of move into that mid show because there's just so much to talk about. But other than that, before I mention anything, digitaldojos.com, we've designed the site. We're looking to still add on to it and stuff like that. We're still keeping the same aim of tech news, reviews, and more, but we're still kind of messing around with the cores of the site and what we want to see up on there in terms of content and how we want the site to flow. So there's a lot of stuff to change with the site, so do check it out. And of course, youtube.com/digitaldojos. Everything's been going great since the new year. We hit, I believe, combined now we have over 7,000 subscribers on YouTube, 4 million views. I think nearing 5 million views, so the stats have been going out the charts. We're on a couple of TV channels now in terms of web TV and available on some of your devices like Apple TVs and all of that. So we're still trying to push that whole iTunes initiative and get more shows out there and more weekly content and all that. So, stats are looking good for the new year. But with that, let's get right into the first story about ACTA, ACTA. So you've heard all the news in the past week about SOPA and PIPA. If you guys were subscribed to my main YouTube channel, I did a little video on that. And you should know that Congress did not pass the bill, yet there was still a big discrepancy over mega upload, which went down because it kind of showed that even though SOPA and PIPA were stopped, the government still has the power to kind of shut down sites like mega upload and other sites like that kind of the business model isn't really for pirated content, but with sites like that, there's always expected, they can't really control, they give the users a platform to upload stuff, and they really can't control the users as much. It's kind of like YouTube, YouTube, anybody can upload anything up there, whether it's like movie clips or anything like that, but YouTube does its best to crack down on piracy. But anyways, moving on to ACTA. ACTA is kind of a thing that came right after the Stop Online Piracy Act and the Protect IP Act, which were shelved last week. But this is the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, or the ACTA. And it's an international treaty designed to protect intellectual property rights, pretty much. Now, this one isn't as scary as the last two bills, like gave government and the music industry tons of power to do a lot of stuff on the internet. And I can make a whole video about that. But anyways, the agreement was created, I believe, in London back late 2006. Along with Australia, Canada, Morocco, and New Zealand. And you can read up all about this. I think South Korea and Singapore and other places like that are involved as well. While SOPA and PIPA were actually, proposed bills in the U.S. Senate, House of Senate, while ACTA is more of a treaty between countries that will, sign on this agreement. So it's not it's as scary as the last two bills. but there's some stuff in here you need to be aware of. So in the U.S. ACTA, I'm going to read this off of Mashable. This is coming from Mashable. ACTA is being considered as an executive agreement, not a treaty. When signing a treaty, the president must get at least 2/3 of the Senate's approval within the agreements. The president is allowed to bypass the Senate completely. Now, if you go on further on this, you've seen a lot of protesting against this on the internet and stuff like that. But it talks a little bit about what it does here. It says the treaty does, however, include language designed to protect legitimate online commerce and free speech. This is a quote here. These procedures shall be implemented in a manner that avoids creation of barriers to legitimate activity, including electronic commerce, and consistent with the party's laws, preserves fundamental principles such as freedom of expression, fair process, and privacy. So this is kind of going out, not as much piracy, but more your your online rights in terms of ISP, dealing with stuff about ISPs, a little bit of providing copyright providers with information about your users if they're illegally hosting any protected content, and the treaty would set up an international body that can make amendments to the treaty. So neither the public nor domestic courts can review that body as of right now, although representatives from relevant industries can kind of put their input within this agreement. So it's going against a lot of stuff right now, and it says here, according to Electronic Frontier Foundation, a nonprofit organization that aims to protect free speech online, ACTA has several features that raise significant potential concerns for consumer privacy and civil liberty for innovation of the free flow of the information on the internet. And of course, I'm a big advocate of freedom on the internet. I agree that with the whole SOPA and PIPA and even on ACTA, they're trying to prevent and crack down on piracy, but at the same time, it kind of breaches our privacy, and when that the ISP has to hand over all their information and all that. But they always see P2P or peer-to-peer clients as a means of piracy, while stuff like uTorrent and BitTorrent. Well, I'm sure majority of it may be used for illegal content. A lot of it is also legal content. You can host files on there. You can share files. I know a lot of big popular networks like Revision 3 had an issue where they hosted their shows via uTorrent because it's just an easier way to download files when you're downloading and leeching off multiple people. You download a file faster. You're getting bits and fragments from every person. That's how peer-to-peer works. Now, when you're doing that, obviously you get the files faster, but that's why a lot of people put movies on there and stuff like that. But there's legitimate reasons. Like I said, people upload shows on there. They upload a lot of different content that is, Creative Commons content and stuff like that. But you can read up on this. There's a lot of stuff you can find on ACTA or SOPA or PIPA on how to prevent it. I know SOPA and PIPA more. You can write to your Congress, and they had a whole blackout day on the internet and stuff like that. But I think it was more due to the sheer amount of people writing in and protesting was the reason that they got that one shelved. But then again, the whole mega upload ordeal went down. But that's a whole other story. Moving on. Every 2012, Lemonson MIT Invention Index releases a greatest innovators of all time for the year. In 2012, it's no different. Still at number one is Thomas Edison at 52%. One of the greatest innovators in history. With obviously the whole light bulb and all that technology. And I believe it was his apprentice who moved on to do stuff like Christmas lights and other stuff like that. But but number two on the list was added. Steve Jobs was added at 24% to be one of the second most leading innovators in the list. Now third is Alexander Graham Bell, and then there's Marie Curie, and coming in at fifth place. Mark Zuckerberg was also added to the list with the 3% of the whole chart, and then it goes on to talk about Amelia Earhart and Temple Grandin. So this year, it was also a survey revealed that less than half the respondents have done things like use a drill or a handheld tool, not really hands-on work, or more made something over raw materials, and not a lot of. Where is it here? There's something thing here. It says the data comes from a survey asking over 1,010 Americans ages 16 to 25 to identify the greatest innovators of all time. And the majority of the surveys of the Americans, 52% chose Edison, while for the greatest innovator in 24 chose Jobs, and who recently passed not too long ago. But I mean, if you really think of it, he is associated. If you think of the word innovation, not only do you think of Apple or Jobs, but you think of Apple as a whole. They've really innovated a huge mark, and I think it's definitely he's up there with many of these astounding people in history like Alexander Bell and Thomas Edison with all electricity and light and everything, which is a great invention. And you think of Jobs, so much he's done for not only technology as a whole. Back when we were still using floppy disk, he kind of now he's quoted a lot with saying that he's the inventor of CDs and all that, but more he said that he wasn't, he didn't invent these things, he pushed these things, he made them mainstream. The laser printer is something he made more mainstream. The mouse is something that he saw from, I believe, Xerox PARC and brought that into mainstream. The GUI interface, the click and point, everything you see on your screen, whether you're using Windows or Mac, was innovated by Steve Jobs because he saw this product that Xerox was doing nothing with, and he took it, and that's where he gets a lot of the he was a pirate back in the day, they call him, but he took that and he brought it to life. He gave us an interface that we can use that interacts between human and technology, and that's what we call the GUI interface, or the graphical user interface. There's so much more. Like I said, he mainstream CDs. The Mac has been a huge thing in the the computer industry for video editors. The iPhone has revolutionized so many things. The iPod has revolutionized so many things. He even owns, I believe, Pixar. When he started Pixar, when he got fired from Apple, and they bought 10% of Disney, they own a majority of Disney. Pixar owns all of that, and they made their the great animation studios and all of that. So a huge innovator in so many categories. So definitely worth a spot. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg coming in at 5%, really changing the whole social industry and the way we kind of interact now, back from compared to sending emails, sending snail mail, and now we can message somebody on Facebook. We can keep in touch with them. We can see what they're doing, how, everything like that. He's really changed the whole social aspect of life as well. All right, so moving on, and related to Mark Zuckerberg, as a big piece of news is, I talked about this not too long ago, Facebook is going soon to be going public with their IPO, which is, big news for investors and all that in stock, if you guys are interested in any of that. Basically, they haven't gone really public in terms of stock options and allowing people to buy stock for Facebook. Because I guess obviously really they don't need the funding, but they have tons of funding. But there's an interesting article that was written over at Mashable about, can regular investors buy a piece of Facebook? Because there's going to be these big companies and stuff like that who will be buying in before anybody, and will have tons and tons of shares. But what about regular investors? So it says here now that it looks like Facebook is finally, it's been a while, going to file for an IPO. Plenty of potential investors want to know if they can get on the action. And it says right here basically, it's not looking good for average investors. I don't want to say small time, but it's more out there for the bigger players in the stock market. It says here, they'll cut to the chase. Unless you're a close friend or relative of Facebook executive, or you manage an enormous amount of capital, you almost have no chance of getting an IPO price on the stock like Facebook. Well, as the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, points out, the underwriters and the company that issues shares controls of the IPO process. The SEC doesn't regulate how these primary shares are allocated. So while they control everything, they're not deciding how much stock, where this stock is going, where this share of the company is going, and all of that. In Facebook's case, the Wall Street Journal reports that Morgan Stanley will likely be the lead underwriter for the IPO, with Goldman Sachs also expected to play a large role. So these investment banks are going to target large customers and institutional investors. The goal is to move shares by millions, not hundreds of thousands. So tons and tons of money is going to be put out there. But what average investors can do, you can buy into mutual funds that will invest into the IPO. There are a few funds in the market, such as like Global IPO Plus, the Renaissance Capital. So if you don't know what a mutual fund is, sorry if you can hear that in the background. But a mutual fund, this is something I even looked into because with the whole stock and everything. Basically, a mutual fund, if you're not in stock and all that, it takes you get a whole bunch of, rather than buying into one company like Facebook or Google, if you want to spread your money apart, you hire somebody to, like a broker or anything like that, to look into a mutual fund, which will actually allow you to buy into like 20 companies. So you'll spread your money across like 20 companies and stuff like that. So you're invested a little bit, it's a little bit safer and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's the basis of a mutual fund. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but that's you can invest in that, which will invest into the whole IPO of Facebook. You can buy in the aftermarket. This is where it can get tricky. Putting into a market order on the day the stock opens can be risky. In fact, many retail investors were burned during the dot-com era for moving too fast on an IPO stock, so that's something you also have to be careful. You can also obviously just watch from the sidelines. Sometimes it pays to kind of step back, especially within stock, and just watch the market before even jumping in and buying anything. An IPO, Facebook could be the next Google, which could be a big bubble. But there's also a chance it could be the next Yahoo, which obviously how Yahoo's going now. So I think right now Facebook's worth 75 to 100 billion. I'm not sure if it's earnings, but I just know that their funds are huge. So it's definitely something that's going to be looked into by bigger companies and stuff like that. But as for regular investors, it's going to be kind of hard to look into right now. All right, but let's move on to the big news of the week. That is CES 2012, the Consumer Electronics Show held, I believe, every January in Las Vegas. So CES, as it's commonly known, brings together about 140,000 plus attendees to see the latest and greatest products, services, applications, and building blocks of new technology to come. And this year, there's so much great technology revolving around. You'll see some of this in the podcast as I put up the pictures. I know for CNET, they had some of the best categories. For best car tech, they talked about the QNX Car2 mobile apps platform, which is a really, really cool. I believe it's in Canada's Research in Motion. That's the company who made it. Is the next generation of BlackBerry smartphones to a new operating system known as QNX. And this is a really, really high tech type stuff built into the car. It has Bluetooth smartphone, Ultra HD voice technology, stereo CD quality. A lot of the stuff, the technology in cars now is more aiming towards hands-free technology. You can talk to the car. I like the iPhone with Siri and kind of give it commands for music and all of that jazz. Along with that, some new cell phones were featured there. The Nokia Lumia 900 won best cell phone that's running the Windows platform with the Metro whole UI and all of that. The best camera, if you haven't seen this, is one of the newer ones from Fujifilm. It's the Fujifilm X Pro 1, which is a big trend in cameras right now. It's called with the interchangeable lens camera, or the ILCs, where they offer better quality for a point and shoot and mega zoom cameras, but in smaller and lighter form factors. So you don't have to carry around a huge DSLR, but yet you still get that quality and that's nice compact camera. And I'll show you a picture of this. So this is more targeted at professional photographers. The camera incorporates several innovations, including a new sensor with a color filter array, I think that's called, a lower hybrid viewfinder, and it looks really, really sleek and retro in terms of the design. And it also, I think it adopts the whole mirrorless technology, which is a lot of cameras are. I think the Canon, I don't know if it's a GX one, but I think it's a GX one is adopting that technology as well. For emerging tech, the MakerBot replicator, this has been in the make for a while. MakerBot made a 3D type printer where you can not only print not just paper and ink and all that, but it prints 3D objects from, real world objects. And they've done shoes, they've done cubes, and they've done all this shapes, and it's a really, really cool thing. If you haven't seen it, look it up. The MakerBot replicator, very, very cool stuff from the guys at MakerBot. The best home theater product is something I'm also looking into. It's a really cool thing. It's called the Simple.TV. It's a DVR and video streamer. It's about one of the big next things for cable cutters. It's a DVR without a built-in hard drive or output. Instead, you supply your own hard drive, and it's recorded over the air TV to a Simple.TV, or it's also available on the iPad, the Roku, Boxy, Google TV, all of that. And I think it's a 5-month premium for the service, so $5 a month premium, I think. Best computer, the HP Envy. These are really, really newer line from HP. Really, really sleek laptops and really high performance laptops. And in this case, the HP Envy 14 Spectre won. It's one of the Ultrabooks, a thin and light, super sleek alternative to a MacBook Air. The newly announced HP Spectre is very light with an all glass lid and palm rest. And it's made out of Gorilla Glass, so it's nothing, it's really, really durable in that terms. But it's just a really, really nice laptop. I think HP wireless audio, support for near-field communication, NFC technology, and it's just a really, really sleek design. And it's only going to cost you, I think, $1,400 stock, at the basic build. Best software and apps was won by BlueStacks for Windows, and that's a I think a company that allows like Windows 8 programs to associate with Android programs. So when Windows 8 launches with more than 400,000 Android apps, basically, yeah, it's just kind of like porting Android market apps to the new Microsoft OS. So you're gonna get all those favorite apps like Angry Birds and Cutthroat available on Windows 8 once that comes out. It's acting like middleman and the sort. Best networking storage product: the D-Link Amplify HD Media Router 3000. This is a wireless router that does much more in terms of just storage. It's a Swiss Army knife, they call it, of routers. So when released, it will optimize for online video, so like streaming like Netflix, Hulu, and all that. If you're doing that, it'll optimize your speeds. Has dual band speeds with HD fuel feature. Also has a USB 3.0 port for optimal connections to the printers, so you can do Wi-Fi printing and all of that. And it manages via a web browser. You can do with iOS or Android apps, and there's so much more built into it. Really, really cool hard drive, definitely, or media storage type thing, or routing storage, or networking storage, I should say. Anyways, moving on. The best tablet for CES 2012 award is actually given to the Asus Memo 370T. Now, this is something I never really looked into, but it's more of an aim at the the Nook, the upended tablet market at the end of 2011, which the Amazon Kindle Fire and all of that. For under $250, the Asus Memo 370T is any indication we may see the list of caveats at that price point, but all disappear. So basically, it's powered by a NVIDIA Tegra, I think, what is it, a NVIDIA Tegra 3 with a 7-inch screen, so it's, again, aiming at that Amazon Kindle form factor, running Android 4.0, which is, I believe, Ice Cream Sandwich, and it provides premium performance, doesn't require a premium price, obviously, like the iPad and other tablets out there. In spite of its low asking price, it comes with a stock 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage, an 8 megapixel camera, HDMI output, and a 1280 by 800 resolution, which is pretty much there's my Mac, which is pretty much 720p resolution. So and it's built in with IPS technology screen. So really, really high performance tablet for its price point, and definitely something cool to look into if you're looking for that 7-inch form factor. And the last category, which everybody really goes to CES for, or not everybody, but one of the big flagship things is the TVs, the televisions. The best TV and best of show product went to the LG 55 EM9800 OLED TV. And I can post a picture of this, and you'll see this is definitely one of the greatest TVs out there right now. It's a full 55-inch OLED TV that they're planning to release before the end of the year. And this has been something that's been in the makes for a while. The core technology's been here, but it's just been worked upon and fitting it into a 55-inch TV that's literally jaw-dropping. And I believe just that it's only 4 millimeters thick at its frame. So 4 millimeters thick, really, really thin technology. No price, I believe, was announced as of yet. We're probably looking up to the thousands, obviously, 4,000 or 5,000 up. But it is, again, a full-size 55-inch OLED. OLED is organic light emitting display, which is really, really vibrant colors, dark blacks, and really, really just a beautiful TV to look at. So I think they're looking at Q3 shipping date around Q3 of 2012. But again, if you haven't seen the TV, check it out. Really, really great TV out there. And there's many more stuff at CES, from speakers to iPhone products, tons and tons of stuff. And if you ask anybody, a lot of people say, CES is not only about the big products, but all about those, quirky little companies that you see too, that do all this really crazy stuff from soundproof chairs and, all this crazy stuff, But there's tons and tons of products. I'm sure you can go to CNET for coverage of CES. Many, many other sites out there have tons and tons of coverage. A lot of YouTubers are still uploading CES content from their trip. So there's tons of content you can view over the internet. All right, moving on to our last stories here, and they are Apple related. The iPhone 4S propels Apple to massive earnings. Apple reported its revenue of $46.33 billion in profits of a $13.06 billion or $13.87 a share for the quarter ended at December 31st, 2011. That was up from a $26.74 billion or $6.43 per share the company saw last year. So it's a huge massive in terms of revenue. They went up, And they said here that we're thrilled with our outstanding results in recording breaking sales of iPhones, iPads, and Macs, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, said. So analysts polled by FactSet Research Systems on average predicted that the company would bring in about $10.06 billion per share with a revenue of $39 billion, and they shot that by a good couple extra $1 billion, which is always good. But anyways, by the numbers, as expected, the iPhone would be the star of Apple's quarter, with having sold 37.04 million units. This is the iPhone 4S. And going into the tablets, 15.34 million iPads were sold during the quarter, that was up 111% from 7.33 million, I believe, in the last year. And Mac sales even went up. I think Mac's coming in at 5.2 million units, surpasses the 5 million units from last year. So it's up 0.2 million. I think that was previously like 4.89 million a couple years back. So I mean, the Macs are going up steadily as well, but the iPads, the iPhones are just skyrocketing up there. In terms of other stuff as well that Apple's bringing in now, and Apple also recently did an education thing. So they're an education event where they're looking at stuff like iBooks and all that. So there's tons and tons of things being bought, from the iTunes content to all these Macs to iPads to iPhones to iPods. The revenue is definitely shooting up, and the iPhone 4S is one of the things that obviously propelled it to a massive earnings. So it's huge news for Apple. But the last thing I want to leave off is with a rumor. We didn't talk much about rumors lately, and iPhone 5 is still a huge rumor. I know a lot of people were talking about it before the 4S came out. But a lot of people are really expecting to see a 4-inch screen on the new iPhone 5, citing a reliable source at Foxconn in China, which, there's been a lot of debate about Foxconn in the news. Or not debate, but controversy with, the conditions of the workers there. And, I think some of them tried to commit suicide somewhere. So, it's definitely, there's a lot of stuff looking in there. I think recently Tim Cook made a statement on how he's going to dig deeper into the working conditions of the people at Foxconn and, look into the stuff that's happening down there. But the blog notes that there are some changes to come on samples compared to the previous iPhone models, building a 4-inch or larger display and a form factor that looks unlike the current iPhone 4 and 4S, with a longer and wider appearance, according to 9to5 Mac. So, I mean, this is it's always speculation. There's a lot of talk about this last year and how a lot of people said there's these cases that came out that looked like a more curved screen, and they were going for more of a curve effect again. And to be honest, I have my iPhone right here, so this is the same form factor. This is the 4S. This is the white model. They changed it with the 4 to this kind of like square form factor. I kind of prefer the whole curve that the iPhone 3G and 3GS offered, or even the later iPods offered. So this is an iPod right here. This is an older iPod Touch, and this is an iPhone 4 here. This is actually broken, so you can see this is the innards of the iPhone 4. Very, very compact design if you've never seen the inside of an iPhone 4. But I mean, obviously you can see that the obvious there's thinness difference between the iPhone 4 and 4S isn't much or anything of a difference. So hopefully we'll see a thinner phone. I mean, it's really light as is. And definitely maybe incorporate some. There's talk about a lot of people want to see like Gorilla Glass technology implemented into the iPhone screen because it cracks so easy. If dropping certain, it all depends on how you drop it. But Retina display is still obviously one of the the bigger things that came out with the iPhone 4, which is a huge increase from the 3GS and 3G. So I'm not sure much what they can do with terms of display technology other than make it bigger. iOS wise, I recently just jailbroke my iPhone. iPhone 4S. So you can see here, this looks normal, but I actually have some themes on here with Dreamboard. So usually I'm usually using this theme right here. So this is the Power HD theme. So I can show you this real quick. So this is Power HD. You can see this right here. This is what it looks like jailbroken. You have these little drawers here for my home screen. Really cool stuff. I think it's kind of weird because it's like I'm using a mirror here. But anyways, you can see here, this is the iPhone 4S on when it's jailbroken here. But more customizability for stock, iOS when 6.0 comes out, in my opinion. I think that's what the 4 has to offer. The iPhone 5, I guess, would have to offer. We probably won't see A6. A lot of people ask me about that. The A6 processor. I think it'll be a little bit faster in terms of A5. Definitely will still be in there. Dual core, just like the iPad has, the iPhone 4S. Probably updates in graphics and stuff like that. Maybe more capacity is what I'm looking for. Maybe like a new baseline model. I think right now they're starting at 16 gigs, but maybe higher storage options. Definitely, I think they'll do something with the screen in terms of increasing it to a 4-inch screen once the next iPhone comes out. Other than that, I'm not really sure what they'll implement hardware-wise to say. It's kind of hard. Obviously, maybe a slightly better camera, bigger screen. But other than that, the rumors are flying around, but you can never be too sure with Apple. So, yeah, we'll have to look forward to that. So with that, guys, that really ends the stories for the week. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And don't forget to head over to digitaldojos.com and, of course, youtube.com/digitaldojos for more content. We recently did our iPod Touch 4G teardown guide, so if you want to check that out over at digitaldojos.com, along with a jailbreaking guide for your iPhone 4S and iPad 2 on the latest 5.01 firmware that recently just came out. So lots of stuff you guys can check out there. Anyways, guys, I'm Adrian, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I will catch you all next week. Thanks for watching.